Are you going to man the comments?
Yes.
No,
Sup,
I can
guys,
man the comments.
and welcome back to another episode of Marvel's Pack Fresh podcast.
Missed it.
And I hope you've had a fantastic evening. Happy New Year to everyone watching, wherever you are in the world. How you doing, gents? You okay?
Doing great, man.
Yeah,
We're
marvelous.
back.
We're almost
We are
back. We
back.
missed Elusive.
Yeah,
Elusive.
Bless him.
Yeah,
He's going through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 corners of one card. It's rough.
Yeah.
It's rough. It doesn't make a PS5 at all, man. It's rough.
PS5.
PSA 10 question mark.
Yeah, question mark.
question mark.
What's up? Hi, Jago.
Jago,
How
what's
are
up,
you,
man?
my friend?
Hey,
Jago.
Yeah, Happy New Year's, bud.
Happy New Year to you, my friend.
Hey.
So yeah, we wanted to do, an episode where we're looking back on the year and really talking about, some of the key points across the year, how it's been for kind of us individually, and just Marvel cards in general. I think, but it's been crazy. It's been a crazy few weeks. But where do we begin? I don't even know.
It's
Yeah,
rough, man. It's rough. Let's really start. So let's start with you, Gingy. Like, what has this year been for you? Highlights, insanity, things that you want to pay close attention to. What's been coming up, and what's on your mind right now going into the next year?
Oh, where do I begin? Honestly, it's just for me. It's more of the same thing. Like I've loved every minute of it. Since kind of starting to create content back in January, and then really, going deep in late February, and then onwards. But yeah, it's just been a hell of a ride. Like the community is just fantastic. I know you guys agree. We're good friends now. Elusive. I would never expected that when I first started out. Posting content online. So forever grateful for that. So,
Gingy,
yeah,
I
Marvel
remember
cards.
watching you interview Ian Taylor
Yeah,
on a Sunday morning,
yeah.
and it was just us 3. I was watching, y'all were talking. It was
Yep.
wonderful. And to
It was
look at it
indeed.
now, it's incredible. See how
Yeah.
you've grown in the content creating, how your channel has grown, your content, the quality of it. It's just been amazing. It's really awesome that you represent Marvel cards in the way that you do.
Yeah, appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, what I've learned from you guys, what I've learned from the community, like it's just huge. It's never ending. That's the thing with Marvel cards, like the beauty of Marvel cards.
Yeah.
When you think you know something, no, you don't.
Speaking of Marvel cards, we got MT,
Something new.
Michael Thomas in the house. He was one of the 12
Yeah.
Breaks of Christmas winners, and he does a little sketch card stuff. It's really awesome.
Congrats.
He's actually been doing commissions to trade
Hey,
for
man.
cards. I thought that was really pretty awesome.
That's a good idea.
Pretty clever.
That is a
That's
good idea.
really
By
good.
the way,
idea. That's cool.
I very much like your sketch card that you did, Spidey.
Oh, the one I did? Well, thank you.
Who knew you could draw that well, eh?
Yes.
I can do just about anything once. It's trying to duplicate it. It's the problem. Now, I had a burst of creative energy. I haven't, normally my creative energy is the channel, it's content. But I've been off work, and so I was sitting in the kitchen. I was like, you know what? I'll try my hand at a sketch card, and that was the result.
So good, man. I'm jealous because if I did one, it would look absolutely horrendous. I think the stick man would be probably what I'd end up with. No one wants that.
That'd make a great NFT. You know that, right?
Yeah,
That'd be the height of my gloriousness right there.
Mhm.
that would be
We got
awful.
Marvel guy in. What's up, Kent? He's got a YouTube channel coming, so I believe he's gonna
Oh.
have great content because he has great cards.
It
Hey, and
does.
look, Neo's in our chats, but he won't be on the channel. What's up with that?
Something new.
Neo, come on.
I just reminded him.
Marvel cards.
Neo, come on home.
Happy New Year's.
We're gonna recap the year, bud, and you're a big part of it, actually.
Yeah, you are. Huge
I
part
was
of it, really.
Thinking about the
Huge
recap
part of it.
last night, and Neo is right there. His channel early on, it was legitimizing the hobby in a lot of ways because he was already kind of established as a content creator and as a trading card collector. For him to be talking Marvel cards, like, I'm sure some people thought it was kind of a novelty, but he really solidified the hobby early.
Agreed, 100%.
I mean, he was the
Yeah,
one
yeah.
really letting people know. Yeah, he was the one letting people know about Marvel Universe 1990, and everyone was, starting to come. Oh, these are 25 cents cards, blah blah blah. I mean, he put it to the test. He's like, all right, I'll open up a box, and really showed people that Marvel cards, even though they were mass produced like every other card, which makes no sense, but that they're not easy to grade. They do have some beautiful artwork, original artwork from original Marvel comic book creators. The holograms. I mean, he brought so much knowledge to us from PSA. Everything. I mean, it's a huge part of the hobby. Huge.
Yeah, and what I really liked,
Jayhawk fan.
What's up, Jayhawk?
Yeah, Mr. Jayhawk.
Was the transparency. Like, he talked about the risks, grading, and some Marvel guys don't have a clue about that kind of thing. So that was really beneficial for me personally as
I
well.
think he saved a lot of people a lot of money
Exactly.
by letting them know, hey, you're not going to be able to send any card up and then flip it for $700 to $1,500. It's not going to happen.
100%.
Yep. Infinite Collector's here. What's up, Infinite? What's up, Izzy?
Sup, Izzy?
You'll end up with a much better collection than I will sketch cards. I promise.
Okay, so I'm putting this out there now. I'm going to be buying my first sketch card this year.
Oh, exciting!
That is one of my goals.
What?
Do you know who the lucky artist is going to be?
Damn, that's cool.
Absolutely no idea. I'm going to spend a lot of time with sketch going through this.
All right, I'm going to put this out there. I want somebody to create a special sketch card for Gingy Man. I'm talking about with a red mustache and everything.
Oh, I would buy it.
Yeah, I want to see that happen.
That would be awesome. That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
That's one of the goals.
See that mustache worked into sketch cards. I love it.
Hey, so let's talk about this. It's kind of, when you're talking about recapping 2021, I think, gosh, maybe even bigger than the cards has been the content creators. And I'm not trying to point fingers at us. I'm talking about globally. Like how many people have been creating on Instagram and on YouTube and probably other platforms I'm not even following regularly. But the growth of content created around Marvel cards has been really massive. And I'm very thankful for it because it gives me something to watch. When early in the year, there wasn't much.
Nothing.
It was bare minimum. I was stuck watching Sasha T and Millie Pops and sports card collector, investor.
Opening of 1996
Gem Mint. Oh gosh, Gem Mint.
I must have seen like his videos like hundreds of times. Yeah, like
he's great, man. He does great work.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, I remember him hitting me up when he wanted to get a masterpiece collection, and like when he was doing the framing stuff, and he was just like, "All right, what set do I buy?" And I was like looking for sets for him and trying to help him out. And he did a lot of the work himself, but it was just so funny to see him and go through that process and get to the cards and showing statue collectors. And then all of a sudden, all these statue collector content started having Marvel cards popping into their statue displays. It's really, it's really amazing.
His video is still, I think, the top search, or suggested video if you search Marvel cards, if you put it into Google or YouTube.
No doubt.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt. And then we got our guest, the man himself.
Hey, boys.
Yeah.
Did we Look at this.
What's up, guys?
Hey, buddy.
What's up, Neo, man?
Thanks for the kind words earlier.
Hey, man,
dude,
welcome.
You can imagine being me, like sitting there. My brother shows up and he's like, "Hey, have you heard about 90s Marvel cards, what they're selling for?" I'm like, "No, I haven't actually." And having your channel to turn on to have some guidance there in the beginning was important. And then having content to watch, because there wasn't a lot. There was a couple of other, I don't know what to call them, PSA grader types who kind of made a couple of videos and they didn't know what they were talking about for the most part. And I don't mean that ugly. I mean, like the rich depth of Marvel cards, they're obviously fine graders, but that content dried up real quick.
Yeah. It was fun. Norton and I talked about this when I had him on my channel about a week or so ago. It was like the perfect confluence of events of, doing the sports card stuff for the last, well, at that point, 6 months, 8 months or so leading up to that point of early last year. And then all of a sudden those hit. And I'm like, well, wait a second. Like, I collected these as a kid. Like, I have a lot of not Marvel card knowledge in general, but specifically about 90MU. And I'm like, oh, this is like a perfect storm for me in regards to like a knowledge standpoint. And like we discussed and like you guys discussed earlier, there was a lot of misconceptions on the grading side of things, I think, because like, Ian said, you guys weren't, the Marvel card community was not used to taking grading seriously. There's a few people that did it, but not many did it on a serious level. It was people really deep in were sending stuff in for grading, but not at scale. And now all of a sudden everyone's digging out piles of Marvel cards that were under their box or under their bed. And we're like, yeah, PSA 10s for days. And it's not really how it works.
No.
Amen.
No. It was bad. Yeah, it was bad. On the MCC pod, with Ian Taylor, we were talking about grading stuff, and we knew Graded Gamer. We knew a few other people who had been grading cards for quite a bit. And, everyone was kind of like, why would you grade that? Why would this? Why would that? So when it was becoming big and like you were doing those videos on PSA grading and other grading things and how to look at cards, I think it really ushered in a new age of Marvel card collectors, because all of a sudden we became concerned with hard numbers, right? We became concerned with condition sensitive cards that have certain inserts that have condition sensitivity. And all of a sudden it kind of really brought that knowledge in a hurry. And it's really worked out. It really evolved. I mean, really think about it. A year ago, no one would ever have imagined that people would be taking Marvel cards to this length. Impossible.
No, and then so we're in January, so we're really like at a year, and then February happened, which was a couple of different things. We had Marvel Masterpiece 2020 release on EPAC, okay, and PSA shut down basically. And those two things, I'm curious, guys, and then they're not connected, but they both happened in February. And well, one other thing, that's when sports card hit their peak, right, Neo?
Yeah, sports cards hit their peak. There was kind of two peaks. There was the ultra modern peak, which happened in the summer of 2020. So like current players. And then in February of 2021 is when a lot of all-time greats spiked. Your Jordans, your Kobe's, your LeBrons, a lot of retired guys. And a lot of other stuff did go up, but some current player stuff didn't go up as high in February. But in February is like when an 86 Fleer Jordan sold for the all-time record. Kobe rookies were selling for all-time records. Steph Curry stuff, much more established players. It kind of swung. It was like ultra modern stuff was really high, dipped down a little bit. And then the beginning of the year, the focus swung to, the legends of the sports card community, essentially.
Neo,
and I was just looking, that was February 1st when I posted that first video about Marvel cards. And then PSA fully shut down, I think May 1st, but they started limiting submissions and prices started hiking as we moved throughout January, February, and March.
They went to the $300 submission, right?
I don't remember the exact what the prices went to when these days, but yeah, it was like it went from, kept leveling up price wise to try to limit submissions coming in, and the sports card prices were so high that people were just spending it anyways and didn't even care about the increased prices and just kept sending stuff.
So that has my follow-up question. PSA kind of locking it up, right, so to speak, and making it very expensive, almost too expensive to send just about any Marvel card at the time. How do you think that changed Marvel cards throughout the rest of the year without being able to involve that type of grading?
It honestly helped it, because it probably limited population supply, especially on the stuff like 90 Marvel Universe, like the more base set stuff, because it put artificial constraints on it. Because a lot of people did submit that stuff, and you saw population counts increase. And I was actually just looking about a month or so ago at GemRate data on PSA population data on 90MU and how it's climbed like over the last few months. And by the prices going up, I think it did prevent a lot of people that were coming late to the game at sending, because it didn't make sense to send some of those cards at $300 a piece. I remember I got one of the last submissions in at Express level before it went away. I sent like a brown suit Wolverine and a Venom and a black suit Spider-Man at like $150 a card on 90MU. But I purposely did that because I wanted them back faster. to be able to time the market a little bit better because I knew prices were going to come down. They're still high. I mean, a
Well, you
Stan
got
Lee
what?
selling for $400 or $500 at a PSA 10 today is still really, really good.
It's solid, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, would you ever in a million years think a black suit Spider-Man would sell for $200 or $300 from 90 MU? But they were selling for $1,500 back then. I knew that wasn't sustainable, so I was willing to pay the extra $100 to get it back in a month versus 3 to 4 months because I knew I'd be able to recoup that because I had confidence in my ability to grade. But then it kind of sent people down this scarcity route, which, as we've talked about a lot, PMGs were already very well respected, but I think it kind of led people down the path of the hard numbered stuff, what's rare, what else is out there, and people trying to get ahead of the curve of what's next.
Yeah. I mean, and it's really cool now because I think so much of grading 90s cards now, a lot of people are like, oh man, I'll get this 90s card that was going for 25 cents graded in a 10 and make bank. And, there is some money to be made there for sure. But I think the real thing that's happening now, at least a lot of comments I get on Instagram is that, hey, I'm making a set. Here's my want list of PSA 10s for 90s or 92, right? I mean, we just saw a bunch of auctions on eBay go up for Marvel Masterpieces 1992, and people are bidding on them, like really bidding on them. You know what I mean? And you're going to see a lot of those big characters go up because 92 is glossy and it sticks and it's a nightmare to grade and unbox and all this stuff. So you're going to see people making sets because that's how they remember them. You know what I mean? They remember these as massive sets because they want to see all the characters. So I think that's going to be a huge thing that happens with grading and going into 2022 is people be like, all right, well, I'm going to get this set in this high grade. And I think that's going to be the trajectory of 90 cards in terms of grading for sure. I think that's the evolution of it.
Yeah.
And Masterpieces specifically, like you said, you're not like 90 Marvel Universe. I could go out and buy boxes of that right now and feel fairly confident that the cards are going to be fine. I mean, they might be beat up a little bit, but I don't have to worry about sticking or bricking or whatever. Masterpieces is a different ballgame. I mean, you're dice rolling just even opening the box. You might be okay, but you might not be. So it's not like there's a ton of, yes, there might be a lot of boxes sitting out there of it, but how many of those can you legitimately open and get 10s out of it, even if they're clean?
What you're talking about is that these don't brick.
Correct.
Where-
Yeah, I got one sitting right back there on the shelf, and then
baby,
X-Men boxes. And then I actually,
X-Men doesn't stick either.
I ripped this morning live.
Oh, you did? I have to go back
Series
to
3
that.
box, yeah.
That's awesome.
I got banger. I hit about as good as you could on the holograms. I got one thing, but I did get the Wolverine and the
Oh, and the Venom.
Yes.
Those
Those
are
are
so
so
very
good.
I don't think they're gradable though. And I got one out of an entire box. I got one freaking Venom base card.
Wow.
That's it.
Short print.
Tough,
I
man.
got 6,500 slug or whatever the one fat guy is that's not Kingpin. Some really random characters in that set. Silvermane. I got about 15 Silvermanes, but I can only get one Venom. Like, what the hell?
We need to come up with a 90s no brick list. Like what boxes are less likely to brick.
Yeah. I think,
Jim Lee.
Jim Lee, X-Men for sure.
Yeah, any of the paper stuff. Really.
Any of the paper stuff. And just, my advice would be go on eBay, look up the single cards, just take a look at the singles. If you're into a character, like just type Venom or Wolverine and then look at all the variations of Wolverine and Venom and Spider-Man and see which ones are glossy and not. And there are like chrome cards too, like Marvel versus DC or Marvel versus Windstorm, which is another one that people don't really think about. You're like Windstorm, what the hell's with? Yeah, but like there's a lot of Marvel characters in there, and they have like a chrome reflector look to them. You know what I mean? It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to check out. A lot of good hidden gems still.
Just to give some context on like the 92 Marvel Masterpieces. So the PSA 10 pop right now, 794 PSA 10s, and then there's 990 PSA 9s.
In
so
total?
PSA 9s outweighs the 10s. So
wow,
to your point,
good.
So I sent a beautiful Spider-Man 92, and it's hard to get those centered, hard to find them even close to center. This one was close, about as close as I've seen. Turns out there's stock missing on the back of the card, and apparently that happens routinely with 92. No, had no idea, absolutely no idea. I'm not a grader.
Damn. I'm not a grader. At all. 92 is tough.
And
man.
it didn't
92
get
is really tough.
So
that's good.
Ian, what did you say was the total population on PSA 10s for masterpieces?
You mean Gingy?
You mean Gingy?
Yeah, Gigi, sorry.
So PSA 10, 794. And then PSA 9's 990.
So Marvel Universe has 4,400 PSA 10s in the population report for 90.
There you
I just need to
Yeah.
go and buy the PSA 10 Spider-Man when I see it. Just get it over with and be done.
Yeah, just to kind of put
Stop
that out
chasing
there.
it. Yeah.
Plus, I'm sure Masterpieces was much lower printed.
But hey, I want to point something out. 350,000 sealed boxes, not still sealed, but that's how many they printed and produced. And they only have that many PSA 10s, and a lot of that's been opened.
No
Yeah,
one kept
huge
those
amount.
boxes nice. I know a lot of sealed box collectors, and only 2 of them really I would buy from. Not because the other 2 are not the other 10 are not like major like good collectors or anything, but they're like in storage rooms. They're in like a shed in the backyard type of thing. You know what I mean? Like who cared about Marvel sealed boxes at one point? You know what I mean? A lot of this stuff was not kept in air conditioning. It wasn't kept well. You know, a lot of boxes too, especially glossy cards, they're stacked, right? If you have 3 or 4 of those boxes stacked on each other, eating less, that weight over a long period of time with heat and humidity, you get all that kind of sticky, white dotted kind of stuff happen to you. Yeah, it's not that easy to find.
Does 94
Unfortunately.
Fleer Ultra X-Men brick? I think it does, doesn't it? Or
Hey,
it's
I heard
stick a
that.
little bit.
It does
Not as
because
bad
not
as
only the
Masterpieces, but
not as bad as Masterpiece has like this extra layer of gloss. It's like really rough. But Fleer Ultra is a great set too. It's such a iconic, beautiful set. Bill Sinkovich, everybody's in there. But it has a gold foiling and a tad bit of gloss, so it can have that like, kind of
Mhm.
clicking type of thing.
Well, we're going to
and
find
peel it
out.
off.
I'm going to open up a box of 94 Flare Ultra X-Men probably within the week.
Nice.
Ah,
Just,
That's
I'm
for-
gonna
not
be
just
getting one to open. I went with Universe instead.
it's
I love
just
Universe.
that's my childhood. 94 Flare Ultra X-Men.
So on that
Universe
point,
was
like,
my first card.
was it?
Yeah, it really was Universe. Yeah, it was
Oh, wow.
that box specifically. Yeah, it was a Silver because Silver Surfer's on one of the packs, and like that was my first Silver Surfer card. I still have it. Yeah,
It says good Silver Surfer artwork.
it was Ron Lynn
Seriously.
written. You know, yeah, big one. Yeah,
So yeah, going back to like grading. Sorry, a little bit. The amount of people that sent in, you know, $10, $15 subs, regular value of Marvel cards back in what pre-price hike. Do you think how does that weigh in? Obviously, I'm waiting for mine. I'm not going to get them for probably another 2 months, and I sent them in May or just before May. How do you think that affects what's to come in Marvel cards, or will it at all?
I think it'll continue to put a little bit of downward pressure on the prices, especially like 90 MU, 91 MU, like that sort of base level stuff. But as we've talked about a lot, I think a lot of people that sent in at that level were not confident in what they were doing, unfortunately. So I still think there's a lot of people that are going to get burned. And you're probably going to see a lot of PSA 8s, PSA 9s, that sort of thing. I just pulled this up. Let me do a screen share real quick here. Don't know if you could pull that up or not, Norin.
yeah, I got you, brother.
So this is gemrate.com. He does a lot of PSA data tracking, and this is 90 Marvel Universe. So it actually tracks. His data goes back to September, so you can actually see the total number graded on a graph of how it's climbed over the last few months. And then he also tracks the total number of PSA 10s that have gone and the gem rate percentage. So the gem rate percentage is percentage of PSA 10s on the census. So you can actually see it's tracking downwards. So it was 37% back in September. It's all the way down to 35% now. And you can see how the population has increased. Like, look at how the overall PSA 10 pop has increased, but the PSA total population has increased on this top line. And then this bottom line down here is the PSA 10 population
That's
increase.
when I submitted my cards.
So, and this is what's hit the census. So this is what's actually appeared on the census that is now graded in slabs. So like I said, this goes back to the end of September and goes to current. But the interesting part here is the gem rate percentage basically continuing to go down. And we all knew that that was going to happen because the early census stuff, the only people sending that stuff in were probably fairly confident they were getting a PSA 10 prior to February 2020. So I'm sure if you blew this back 2 years, it probably looks like a ski slope. But it's just interesting how much this has climbed. So you've added about 3,000 cards in 3 months, but you've only added maybe 900 PSA 10s, give or take. So,
wow,
Man,
That's
that's awesome.
but yeah, you could put any
Wow.
set you want into this to pull this data. It's a really good website if you're digging into like population report stuff.
I love it.
He did it mostly on the sports card side of things, and I know the guy that runs the website. He's a part of the SCI, does the Sports Card Investor Discord, and I've met him at the National and actually a couple local card shows. And I was like, "Is there any chance you're going to put Marvel cards in there?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm working on it." He's like, "I got to get the sports stuff set first, and then I'm going to backdate some of that stuff." So
awesome.
That's cool. Wow.
So we got Yuri in the house, who is doing
Ew.
some good stuff
Hey,
in
man.
Marvel content. Very well known.
yeah.
Hey, buddy.
in Car space, CAR, but now he's adding the D for cards, Marvel cards.
It's one letter. How hard can it be?
Yeah. Cool dude. He's really great at graphic designs, and so he prints out full visual checklist basically of each card. And as he opens the box, he places the card on the image to match it to see if he's completing a set as he's open. It's really pretty
Yeah,
cool.
it's cool.
Wow, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool, man. I gotta check that out.
John, PSA and BGS raising prices also made room for all these new grading companies popping up everywhere. True, very true.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
So that was February, and then March, April. I don't remember any kind of major news going on Marvel card wise. We were mainly waiting for X-Men Metal Universe to release. But then in May, our buddy Ian Fisher, Cards and Metal, sent a few cards to Golden Auction. And Jack, you and I were developing our friendship at the time. And we decided to go live that night to watch the countdown of these cards, which, just in fairness, it was kind of hard to grasp, like the gravity of the situation, like how important these cards were and what they were going to mean for the hobby. But what we watched 2013 Green Retro Spider-Man, BGS 9, Gold 1 of 1 2015 Spider-Man BGS 9, and then other greens and reds and blues and all go down on an auction one night on Golden Auction. We saw what we thought was going to be, I think you and I were trying to predict what the green 2013 retro PSA PMG Spider-Man would sell for. We were at 9 to 11, 13,000 was kind of our max. Thought of what it would go for. It ends at $34,440 after buyer's premium. Just blew everybody's mind, right? The gold 1 of 1 sells for what, 28,000 after buyer's premium, and all of a sudden,
Yeah, something. It's fairly similar than the green at the time. And I remember people being really upset, thinking that the gold should have gone more because it was the first 1 of 1 gold Spider-Man. And that's when I think a lot of people started realizing, they were like, okay, this is kind of a real deal. This is people who are throwing real money at this. And all this stuff, so everybody knows in the comments, all this is just showing that there's more than one person with a lot of money who's willing to spend it on Marvel cards. And that's it, right? That's the truth, right? It's just a few group of people who want to spend a lot of cash on Marvel cards, and then they duke it out. But what ends up happening is that starts a whole exploration stage, and everyone starts diving in here, and they feel more confident about, paying a little more money to get what they want. And then that's kind of what the snowballed into right after that, right? And now those prices look like chump change compared to what else is selling now, because we had that Gingy documented very well, was the red PMG Spider-Man. That was it was PSA 9, right, Gingy? Or
it was,
or
yeah.
was it?
yeah, it was
70
For 72,000.
Yeah.
70.
That was the red of 100. Yeah, 72,000, and that was the red.
Yeah.
That was the red. And that was
and
buyer
then an 8
days.
sold what, like a week later for 18K?
18, yeah.
on,
which is insane.
yeah. Yeah, sure did. But even 18, like that's still a big number. 18,000 for a
That's
Marvel
a massive number.
card. You know, I don't want it to sound like it's belittling the number. It's to Neo's point, it's massive.
That's a Honda Civic.
Honda Civic for a Marvel card,
Yeah.
which in
Crazy.
fairness, this time last year or 2020, oh gosh, time flies. 2020, that card you could have got it in the hundreds. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So that set 2021 Marvel cards on a whole different course thanks to those sales.
Yeah.
PMGs were already big, but then they became massive, right? In terms of it kind of became a cuss word for a little bit amongst some Marvel.
I think it
card
still
companies.
is. I think it is. I think a lot of people still are a little, tired of hearing those 3-letter words, those 3 letters that form that word. But I think it's definitely Voldemort level. type shit.
OMG, PMG.
That which we don't talk about. But and I think the reason for that is because, and you have to understand, right? I mean, we've all talked about this in the past. Fleer Retro 2013 was always a nightmare to find. You know what I mean? At one point, it was a nightmare to find in good condition. All the PMGs that were up on ComC or eBay when everyone started looking at PMGs were kind of like the leftovers. It was the ones that had like boffed corners, you know what I mean? They weren't in the best of shape, and people already had one. They're like, I'm not going to replace it. Why am I going to spend $100 on a second one? At least the people who had them already. And then when those got dried up, all the collections that had been sealed away kind of started showing themselves, you know what I mean, to everybody else. And then people started going crazy on them. But, also the PMG level thing is that there are a lot of really great cards in Marvel. You know what I mean? And PMGs are really scratching just the surface, which is kind of interesting.
They are, and I think that sale helped people to have to dig deeper to find what they wanted to collect because PMGs were getting out of the reach for the everyday collector, right?
Yeah.
So I think it helped the hobby in that regard. It's kind of like, I don't know if any of y'all play spades, but sometimes you lead with the ace of spades to draw out all the other spades, right? And that's what that kind of did. The trump card came out, that big trump card, and it drew out all the other ones, and then you started seeing more and more big sales of PMGs. Kind of shook the tree loose, and things started falling.
Yeah,
and then that point was for me when with my content that I notice, as you said, other sets starting to build momentum. Like you're talking Rittenhouse, just different sets just started heating up because people looking, in different places. PMGs maybe too much money for them, and big moment that.
And it was your content too, Gingy. I mean, like a big push of this was Gingy's content with like the sales, right? Because it was the first time any Marvel card collector who had content was actually showing sales of things and consistently. And Gingy was showing those sales constantly, and it got people thinking about other sets. People are looking at other cards right now from Fleer Ultra Spider-Man, right? After understanding and seeing Gingy's channel, you know what I mean? And diamonds from Rittenhouse and buybacks and all this other kind of stuff, because we had that kind of record keeping, you know what I mean? And it was out in the open, because a lot of stuff from Marvel cards, unfortunately, is still not really, there's really not a lot of information that could be found, right? It's a lot of people having to learn through trial and error, unfortunately.
I didn't realize the blue Spidey is at $40,000. Wow.
That's crazy.
I thought that got pulled and relisted they raised the minimum bid. I thought the one I have on my watch list is a blue BGS 9. There's 2 of them. It has no bids and 8 days left on it. It's a starting bid at $70K, but it doesn't have any bidders on it yet.
Interesting.
What? The one at Golden?
No, there's one on eBay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Or is there
he's
one on
talking
Golden
about
too? Maybe that's what he's referring to.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't realize there was one on Golden. There is one on eBay. I wonder if that's weird. I wouldn't think they'd be able to list it in 2 places. There is a 2013 blue Spider-Man BGS 9 on eBay right now, starting bid $70K with 8 days left, with no bids on it yet.
Marvel
That
cards.
if the green or if the red went for 80 or $80K with buyer's premium, you would think the blue would go for more. Though, I mean, on the sports card world, people almost might value the red more because it's a color match. It's a better.
I was going to wonder about
isn't
that.
it? That's a big factor.
It's a better, in my opinion, the red is better than, like, I know value wise it's not, but I would rather own a red than a green personally. I think it looks better.
I do think that's going to matter.
Yeah.
Spidey and I had this conversation.
Side, it absolutely matters. Like there'll be stuff numbered out of 50 for a player, for like a rookie, whatever. And then there'll be stuff numbered out of 300, but it's a color match to their jersey and it's aesthetically very pleasing. It'll be the exact same card, and that will outsell the one numbered to a lower amount because it's a supply and demand side. There is more people that want that.
Yeah. There's
more demand for the color match than there is for, the random color that has nothing to do with, the player's uniform in this case. But I mean, I wouldn't see why that logic wouldn't carry over to Marvel cards as well.
It already has.
I don't have to. It already has. Yeah, Gingy knows. Yeah.
Well, it helps explain the green PMG Hulk that sold astronomically more than Captain America on the same night, same grade, same set.
Yeah, I would, and same with like I would value a green Loki more. I would put a premium on something like that in the same regards because those aren't going to perfectly match up. You're not always going to have a perfect color match, but in some cases you do. Like that red Spider-Man is like, you can't ask for a better. Same with like a Deadpool or something like that.
Interesting.
We need a brown suit. We need a brown PMG for brown suit Wolverine. That's how we get that match.
That's the bronze would probably be the closest, but I don't think there is he's Old Man Logan on the bronze, isn't he? Not, or he's just like in a shirt.
He's just in.
I think he's in a shirt. Unfortunately, that's like the.
Is there actually a legitimate Wolverine PMG?
Yeah, 2013.
Yeah,
I forget what the image looks like. Like not like Old Man Logan or.
No, he's actually Wolverine.
Oh, okay.
It's a beautiful image of him running at you with claws.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
That's right. That's a good one.
The only one though, right? Because all the other ones, he's like a different version of himself. It's not just like him in the suit.
Yeah, it doesn't make why mess it up?
Why mess it up?
Yeah, something Thompson's Red Scarlet Witch is another really good example.
That is a beautiful card. The 2013 when she's full, power set up in the air. Yeah. Looks great.
She looks great, man. She looks great in that. She really does. That's a really good looking PMG. Really good.
Yeah, so that was May. And then I would say the next big storyline was the quality control on X-Men Metal. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just saying it's a big part of the year, right? Because that leads into the another big storyline, which is Upper Deck's handling of, people turning in damaged cards and what they're getting in return.
Could you imagine a world where X-Men Metal had good PMGs in it? What the craze would be for that product?
It'd be insane.
I had imagined It'd be insane. World, and that imagination caused me to buy 19 boxes.
Well, I remember me and you demon back and forth about, wait, how many do you have on pre-order? Oh, they popped up more. I got them at this price.
Yeah, we were helping each other out. And if they would have hit, those PMGs would have hit. The reds, specifically, the greens.
It's the reds.
I think the greens are going to be okay long term. Personally,
I still worry about that the way they bannered across the bottom. It's not. It doesn't vibe true PMG for me when I look at those cards. They're nice, but it doesn't hit the same.
Well, here's my argument, for my statement. When you look at sports card PMGs, they're not all the same foiling all time. They're actually quite eclectic, right? For actual precious metal gems, the way that they don't all have that original 97 red and green foiling year after year. And sports card guys, still are attracted to them.
Yeah, I do agree that the greens would be the safer play than the reds because the reds are definitely pink.
Right. In fact, the pink looks better than the red. Like the real
and even like the quality control on the base cards. Like I was so disappointed. Like I didn't even have any I would have loved to have graded some high series stuff just for PC purposes, and I gave up very quickly. I was like, this isn't even worth.
Did Marvel Madness get the first 10s that we've seen from X-Men Metal? Joshua, he got some
SGCs.
I saw some SGCs. I don't remember who posted them, but I saw SGCs.
Gold Bullion, Deadpool, I think, or Wolverine probably.
It was Wolverine,
Grandiose Wolverine.
Grandiose. It was Wolverine Grandiose and the Deadpool E-Pack one.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But then
definitely got that number.
I sent in a green Magneto PMG, which I believe to be damaged out of the pack. which turned out to be on every single Magneto card, regardless of parallel. Okay. Just didn't know it at the time. And Upper Deck sent me back a green Gambit PMG from 2015 as a replacement card and a 1-of-1 printing plate from Premiere with Anthony Tan's Gambit art on it, defeating the Sentinel. You know, at the time that I got the replacement card, I would put the Magneto at about $700 to $1,200, depending on, you know, what's available and who's buying. And the Gambit was easily a $5,000 card at the time that I got it. And we saw that a number of times. We actually saw a lot of Gambits sent back as replacement cards from Upper Deck.
Yeah. I mean, that was definitely a mistake. You know, so much of that, looking at it and what they're doing. And I honestly do think that Upper Deck has like one of the better, if not the best, replacement situation and all that other stuff. I mean, they're very attentive, especially in the Marvel group. Like, they're very much asking our opinions, and they're very around. And I think so much of the value of those PMGs was like a moving target. I think for them, you know what I mean? A lot of us who following that stuff every day are like, well, no way, you know, but I think a lot of people were pretty surprised that the prices have stuck around, right? Or at least they're building in that general area, and you know, they're still sending those replacement cards. Hopefully they can cash that now and do it to the equivalent value and save some of those bigger cards for people who have real issues with really big cards. I mean, Green Magneto, though, I mean, that's a big card when you think about it. I mean, it's a pretty high-end villain. You know, it's just insane how the prices have risen for 2015 and 2013. Even 2017 now, Fleer Ultra Spider-Man has gone crazy.
Well, it's like when they stuck those back in whatever manner they did it. I know what they've told me, but, you know, there's some suspicion around that. They were just thinking, hey, these will be PMGs for PMGs, right?
Yeah.
It's just not the way it actually, the way value
Unfortunately.
played out. Yeah.
So I haven't managed to catch your video yet, Sketch, but how important do you think 2017 Fleer Ultra Spider-Man is going to be? Like, all things considered now.
Well, I think it brings back to Neo's point and Spidey G's point about X-Men Metal. You know what I mean? About X-Men Metal PMGs being good in the sense that the quality control was there and the color was as vibrant. And I think what happened is people saw X-Men Metal and they were like, ooh, it's a 200 card set. Each character gets 90 reds and 10 greens. That's a lot of PMGs floating around. And I think in some way it was good that they weren't great quality, because it made sure that the PMGs that came beforehand got the proper attention that they deserve, because they are the original sense of the word PMGs, foiling, coloring, all that stuff. And I think 2017 for a lot of people, Fleer Ultra Spider-Man were like, well, 2013 and 2015 are so locked down. 2017 Fleer Ultra Spider-Man has so many good characters, big characters on PMGs, and the PMGs look great. And I think what happened there is that the value of that set, especially with other inserts from that set that are hard numbered, I think a lot of people looked at that set and they were like, well, this is a no-brainer. Plus, the set is really fun to collect. And a lot of us knew that at the beginning and really went into it and had a blast. And I think other people kind of discovered how fun it was to open a box of them, to see the different inserts. And there's a lot of really good imaginative design and imagination going into that set. So I think that's why we're seeing a lot of value there.
Yeah.
Plus, it's the biggest movie on Earth right now. Is not hurting it at all.
No,
It might have something to do with it.
Yeah, you're seeing it on the comic book side of things. Like, Spider-Man books are pumped to the moon right now. Like, they're all going up like this. And I'm sure that is encouraging some extra eBay searches for 2017 Fleer Ultra.
So that rolls nicely into Jago's question in terms of, I guess, timing. So do you think the 90s retro Marvel cards will see a jump of the upcoming X-Men 97? It's Disney Plus is going to be on, isn't it? Is there going to be an impact from that?
I think the movies would have a bigger impact than the cartoon, to be honest. I don't know. Yes, there's some big nostalgia for
a lot of people
that X-Men cartoon show for sure, but I don't know if that, maybe it gives 92 Jim Lee a little bit of a boost and some other stuff. But I think them actually just coming into the MCU proper would have a larger impact. I mean, up until I think we're really seeing it now with like that red PMG Spider-Man sale. But I haven't noticed, and maybe you guys would know better. Has MCU releases drastically impacted single prices on like higher end stuff? Like, was there a big demand for Loki earlier in the year, or Scarlet Witch at the beginning of the year? Like, were they getting 30-40% increases just based on the fact that it's in the zeitgeist?
It's
Gingy did a great thing on it. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, man. I said Pancake actually analytics kind of did some good stuff, better than me. But so yeah, there basically is a bump leading up to whatever for example, the Loki cards. There was a bump in certain cards for sure, but again, it's not spread across all sets as such. It is just those key cards. So yeah,
and then did they come back right back down again, or have they held?
Some have come back down. Yeah, definitely.
That's not surprising. I mean, you see on the comic book side, you see that all the time. The spec for whatever sends something to the moon, and then it'll pull back usually at a higher floor than what it was at previously. In some cases, sometimes it comes all the way back down to what it was. Like if you had any Eternals comic books, those have not performed well. But
yeah. So now more than ever, I see, in my opinion, I see people will start speccing a lot more on Marvel cards in the same way like comics and what happens in that space. That's what I'm seeing from some of the data anyway.
I mean, with the way Disney now does phases, like they basically tell us what's coming out in a phase with 2 to 3 years. You really want to be buying that stuff before the trailer ever drops, right? Like that's really what you want to do. And you want to sell before the movie actually releases, like right before. That $72,000 sale we saw with Spider-Man, it was timed pretty well, right?
That you couldn't time a sale better.
Yeah.
Saturday night, the weekend that Spider-Man came. I mean, you could not time a sale more perfectly.
He did a great job, and Golden did a great job, helping him time that, right? And so to me, that's part of the struggle here is as Marvel cards grows in terms of mass appeal, you're going to have more people coming in that are going to be speculators, right? No shame there. I'm not shaming anybody, but that's what's going to happen. And you're going to have kind of this fear of, well, what if that character really pops on the screen and I don't have that card yet? And then people trying to outbid each other to get it before the movie releases, right? And that drives prices up. And then to Neo's point, after the movie, it kind of settles down at a new floor.
Yeah, and maybe Spider-Man's immune to the new floor pricing because it's Spider-Man, but I view that more as like a unicorn character than I do. Someone in chat said Moon Knight. Like Moon Knight's a perfect example of perfect. You might be able to get a little bit of a premium for his stuff in the run-up to his show, but after his show's over, I mean, unless it's like absolutely amazing and it looks like they're going to pull him into a ton of products, most likely that stuff's going to pull back again.
So what, Moon Knight's going to come out, are we thinking next October?
I don't think they've actually said, but
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Probably.
I'm guessing soonish because we got like that little teaser. We actually saw a teaser trailer for that. So that makes me think that it's at least close-ish.
Yeah, I think it's this year, 2022. So I went ahead and picked up every basic Moon Knight card on ComC. Just get it out of the way so I don't have to worry about the run up to the movie. Already have the character, but we know it's coming out, so I don't need to wait till the hype train. Now the PMG was already going through the roof for Moon Knight because he's got a trailer dropped and it's a PMG and people are already going hard after it.
Yeah, really the play, if you're going long term, is probably X-Men because we all know that they're coming, but it's going to be a while. Like I'm not expecting an X-Men trailer for probably a year or two at least, at best. They still have to get through Fantastic Four stuff, but we all know mutants are coming in some shape or form. So
sketch just put
there we go.
Mutant.
There you go. I mean, I got a pile of mutant CGC slabs behind me and a stack of them right next to me that I've been loading up on. So I mean, at least on the comic book side of things.
I'd love to jump on that comment real quick because back to the 97, coming out of X-Men, that is going to be nostalgic for those of us who watched that as a kid. That's going to bring some of those, 90s viewers back into just that space, whether it be toys, whether it be cards, whatever, comics. But the movies is the big play. And if I love X-Men characters, I would go ahead and start locking those up now before those movies ever release. The comic books, same way, even though some of those comic books got really hot and they've settled back down like giant size X-Men. But I would go ahead and lock up that stuff. Same with Silver Surfer. I'm going to say that too. You've already locked it up.
His stuff's hot. I mean, that FF48, Lord knows I tag him in a lot of stuff for it. It's not real cheap for one of those, depending on the grade.
Imagine when the casting happens.
I don't want to talk to any of you anymore. Well, can we talk about something else? Let's talk about let's do something else, man. Let's all just calm down.
Anything.
Yeah.
And I know, to Spidey's point about the X-Men 97. So actually, they had a comic book. It was called X-Men Adventures, which was a comic book based on the cartoon. I bought one in early 2020 in a CGC 9.8 for like $100. That announcement came out. It's about $400 to $500 now for one of those. They're very low census.
Amazing.
I think there's only 30 or 40 of them on a CGC census in a 9.8. There's probably more of them out there. It was one of those situations where not many people were sending that in for grading, but I also don't know how well those were kept. Those were probably given the kids.
I literally have mine in the attic. I have those books.
So I was lucky enough because I love the X-Men cartoon. When I started dabbling in comics, that was one of the first ones that I bought because I just wanted to have it. I just loved the cartoon, and it was a good representation of the cartoon in a comic book form. And it was very reasonable at the time, but they were very hard to find. I remember it took me a while to track one down, but that one spiked just based off the cartoon
That's
thing.
awesome.
That's awesome.
There's your giant size.
Oh yeah,
really
baby.
great grade
Nice.
too. 7.0. Wow. that's
Damn.
great. I still need that one. I have most of the 100 to 200 run.
Nice. Yeah, I picked that up about 2 months ago. I waited for the post dip for things to settle back down
And
again.
almost all mine are raw. They're not graded.
Oh, yeah, you got to get them slabbed up.
I know. Well, you said census with comic books, and I just want to make sure our card people know that means pop report.
Yeah, it's the same. They just call it a census instead of a pop report. I try to use the right terminology depending on what I'm talking about, or I get yelled at in the comments.
Yeah, I just
The internet gets mad if you don't use the proper terminology.
Don't we know that?
Nice. That's exciting. That's good stuff. Which one? Let me know. That's
So
pretty
this
cool.
is, I've been posing this question around to a lot of different people, and I asked this to Sketch when he was on. So as the PMG values keep getting more and more insane, would you rather have the key first appearance and a good grade in the comic book, or would you rather have the key PMG?
Gingy, you first.
Poor Gigi's always put up.
So
on
would you
the-
rather have an ASM 194 and a CGC 9.8, or would you rather have a nice Black Cat PMG? Because you're Black Cat, right? Isn't that your?
No,
You're
No,
thinking
that's-
of Ian
that's
Taylor.
Ian
He's
Taylor.
That's the other guy.
You're thinking of Ian
Yeah, yeah.
Taylor.
He's the other
We all
British
get our Brits
guy.
confused. We all get our British people confused. Yeah.
that's funny.
I mean, I would go for a card, but I would go for the Marvel cards. But honestly, longer term, I would actually pick the comic. In all honesty,
Yeah, I guess it's two questions. If you're just talking PC, if you're talking for what's going to hold value, what you have faith in holding value the longest.
yeah. So comic, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm on the lookout now for like SS1 at a fair price at a particularly high grade. I'm having a hard time spending the money because I'm cheap, but it's definitely, I'm definitely researching it heavily and looking around, and I'm pretty excited to own one. But when I got into cards, I had to do cards only because I can't do both. Like I just can't do it. I don't, and the cards I have, like, compromising like many of my things. I was like, I'm never going to pay this X amount for a card ever. That's insane. And then every like 3 months, I'm getting challenged on that price, and my mindset is changing completely. But yeah, I mean, I think comics are, it's a source material, man. You know what I mean? Like they just mean so much in that sense that here's the thing that started it all. Cards for me have always been the thing that I loved the most as a kid, was cards. I didn't like any other collectible. I loved my comic books, but cards just meant so much more to me as a kid. So I did the surfer thing because it was a hobby. You know what I mean? It was exciting. But yeah, and when you collect one character like I do, when you're a character collector, you don't really think about selling because, you know what I mean? Like, you don't really have duplicates. I learned that the hard way. Now I do have some duplicates because otherwise I'm screwed. But like, it's different. It's different a different kind of thinking though, for sure. I mean, Spidey does both though. So, I mean, what's your thought on that?
Well, it's actually a really This is a difficult question for me because, in theory, I could sell the comic books that I have right now and buy an AF-15 at a 3.0, like consolidate it all, get the one comic book, and then chase the other ones I have again down the road, whatever higher price. But I can't bring myself to do it for some reason. I actually have cards that I could sell and consolidate down into an AF-15, but I can't bring myself to do it. And I don't know why. Like, some of my comic book friends have been like, why can't you sell that card with the way values are going now and get you an AF-15? And I just can't bring myself to do it. I don't know. So
do you think that's a mixture of a couple of things? Like, is it, I mean, if it's, for example, Spider-Man, is it a case of you're fully confident in the future of Marvel cards? Or is it a case of, it's Spider-Man, I just can't let go of it?
Well, I guess it's probably a deep-seated complex answer, which y'all don't want to hear. But when you have something that's when you have something that's numbered out of 10 or less, that's there's so many more comic books than that. And I would actually be satisfied with a 1.0 of an AF-15 Amazing Fantasy, right? But some of these Spider-Man cards that I hold, I don't know that I'll be able to get them back again, because they're going to be more and more and more rare as we move into the future.
I guess the key question is price-wise, is what's going to be more
I had to have
expensive 15 years from now? Is it going to be a low-grade AF-15 or a Spider-Man PMG out of 10?
If you believe in the trading card hobby as a whole, the cards are going to be more valuable outside of the high grades for comic books. The higher graded comic books are going to outpace cards.
I think in a lot of cases you're right. I think AF-15 might be the one that's not the case, because it's AF-15.
But you just said
different. It's almost a separate conversation from comparing even a giant size X-Men 1 to some stuff or things like that. But or even like Silver Surfer, for example. Like I could see the Silver Surfer green PMG outpacing his first appearance potentially, especially in a low grade, but maybe not. And AF-15 is just kind of like a whole other different.
Well, so like a 9.0 Hulk 181, my brother would have to be involved in this conversation. But if I could trade that for a PSA 9 green PMG Wolverine from Retro, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Because I know I can get 181 again.
Yeah.
That's the interesting part. It's can you get it back again?
Yeah.
And there is. I mean, comic books you can, right? I mean, as of right now, I don't know if anything, and Neil had this really great conversation with me, helped me understand graded cards. I bothered Spidey and Gingy about graded comic books a lot too, in my quest to get over my cheapness. And we had this great conversation where there is this kind of like high grade area for comic books where you're like, okay, they're not going to reach this high grade. You know what I mean? So that's not going to be always easy to come across, but you can get the book, right? And cards, especially like 10, like, I mean, I had a serious conversation about this with my wife and I about selling the green Silver Surfer because it's like life-changing kind of money at one point. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have that kind of cash, and it would change a lot of things debt-wise and all this other stuff. Luckily, I didn't, because and it comes down to what Spidey G said. I'm never going to get that card back. It took 6 years to find the stupid thing. I'm never going to get that back again.
And that was before the golden auction.
Yeah.
That was way before the golden auction. I had people laughing at me searching for it because they thought that would be the one card I never would be able to get for the Surfer collection. People were like dead set about me. Honest, being like, yeah, bro, that card's impossible. I've been searching, blah, blah, blah. Those 2013 greens, they were always a nightmare, especially like the big characters. Nightmare.
So the Hulk 181 example, there's 130 of those in a 9.8, but only 4 have sold this year.
Right.
Yeah, see.
So, yes, like a green PMG is out of 10. There's 130, and I'm using a 9.8 in this example because it's the more rare. But it's also how many of those 130 come up for sale compared to the out of 10 green. And in my case, it's probably actually similar to each other because the demand side on the 181 is probably way higher. There's way more people that probably want a Hulk 181 and a 9.8 than a green Wolverine out of 2013 retro. And I have to imagine a lot of those 181 9.8s are probably never seen the light of day, much like a lot of the green PMGs.
The 9.8, if I had a 181 9.8, I would not trade that for a retro green Wolverine.
And they would actually, I'd be curious. So has a green retro sold in a Wolverine for a while?
I mean, I think we can easily say it's a $50,000 card.
So the last 9.8 181 in September did 87,000.
Right. I'm thinking 100,000 today is where it would go.
So would you rather have a Hulk 181 9.8 or a Spider-Man Red PMG? They're the same price.
The Hulk 181 9.8. It's not even close.
It's just as he's, Norton and I
9.8 special though. That's the thing. 9.8 is, it's not just owning it. That's rare air for those.
It's just as these PMGs get so high, and Norton and I talked about this after we did my episode a couple weeks ago. As these numbers get so high, like nothing holds forever. Eventually, there is a crest of the wave, and things are going to start pulling back down again. And really, when you're talking about stuff like this, all it usually takes is one sale. If the next red PMG Spider-Man comes out and it goes for $60K instead of $80K, all of a sudden people that are just in it for the money are going to be like, oh, that just dropped 10 or 15%. I need to move mine now before it drops more because I'm into it for $30K. I need to make sure that I get at least, that I make money on this. So then the next one hits the market and then the next one hits the market. And now all of a sudden there's more hitting the market, that there's buyers willing to support those prices, and they keep slow. It's not going to be like a crash, but they're going to keep stepping down to a degree because there's no thing on earth that goes like this forever price wise. Even AF-15 and X-Men #1 have seen point in time where they've dipped. Now, if you zoom out at a macro level, a little different story, but any market is doing this. Mm-hmm. So there's only a matter of time before one of those sells and it's lower than the previous one, and then not panic, but do people then start to be like, oh, maybe I need to exit out of here. We're starting to come over that peak.
Mm-hmm. Did you happen to see Ken Golden's comments this morning on Instagram about Marvel comic cards? Well, he was live last night, and so I asked him what his thoughts were on the future of Marvel cards, and his response is he believes that it's gold and it's a long-term hold. That was his response. And he proceeded to pull out his AF-15, his Giant Size X-Men, and his Avengers 1 comic books and talked about how the Spider-Man at a 7.5 might actually be more valuable than any of the sports memorabilia he has, which I thought was a huge comment coming from Ken Golden of all people. But his belief is because, to your point, there's going to be these waves and these crashes and then build back up and crashes, that he's thinking more long-term with Marvel as a collectible.
Yeah, and on a macro scale, you might be fine, but I'm always one that likes to enter a market, take the profit, get out, and then I know that I can always get back into it. If it ends up costing me more money down the road, maybe it does, but I have confidence in my ability to move in and out of things to make profit on each transaction. That if it does go up, that's fine. I'll just pay the more premium price later on if I want it, but be less risk averse and just take the money out of it and protect yourself essentially.
Neo, you're getting into something I'd love to do as an episode, which is viewing card as stock. Like you're selling stock high and then you're going into something you believe in for the future at a lower entry point so that you rise it up again, sell, and you have this kind of buying shares of something and selling and making a profit and buying something at a lower cost, so forth and so on.
That's a huge.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically been the sports card market for the last 2 years, essentially.
Yeah, Marvel guy says, do you think Marvel collecting audience growth that is coming will help cards outpace the comics due to the audience not growing as fast?
I personally don't think so. I think to Gigi's point earlier, or whoever said it, comics are the source material. Mm-hmm. And there's just a bigger established base behind comic books than Marvel cards. And I don't know that I see that. It'll grow, but I don't see it catching it. And I actually think comics have a potential to go through another boom again as well. Because if you're talking about census/population data, some of the census data on comic books is extremely low. There's not a lot of the older stuff out there. Like I bought a first appearance of Black Panther this week, a Fantastic 452. There's only 4,900 of them in a blue label on the CGC census. That's it, like across all grades. I mean, Black Panther is a very popular character. There's 4,000 of them graded.
There should be more. Yeah.
And a lot of it's actually probably lower than that because a lot of them are probably ghost grades. So, when you start looking at those numbers, it's just
what Neo means is someone cracked the book, pressed and cleaned it, and sent it back in. So it's really not 4,900, and maybe 4,200.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna answer that with a caveat, if you don't mind. I think it's a couple of different things. I think number one, comic books have to be careful not to get into too many gimmicks where they're overproducing again, like in the 90s. There's been some of that potential. I think comic books need to consider getting into the numbered game where they're doing limited releases and it's actually numbered like out of 100 or out of 1,000. Todd McFarlane had a lot of success with that recently when he did his variant releases. He wound up having one of the highest selling comic books of the year because of it. I think if people know they're buying a comic first appearance and they know there's only this number of them, I think that's important if they do that. I think another thing that's going to impact this question is comic book collectors moving into Marvel cards because CGC decides to start grading Marvel cards. And if that cross-pollination happens, I think you're going to have a chance for Marvel cards. Will never rival comic books like to the amount of collectors, in my opinion, or people who are daily looking at comic books. But I think it will be significant.
I mean, for me, I think about a display, right? Because for me, I watched the whole boom for Marvel statues, which we talked about Gem Mint earlier and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. And there was a really cool moment that happened with Marvel, with statues, Sideshow, all these other kind of places, that people started showing room tours, mm-hmm. right? And the pandemic hit, and then it got bigger and bigger and bigger. I see it as a display unit, right? I see statue, I see comic book, I see card graded, right? And that synergy between CGC, I think, is really vital to the growth of like the card hobby. And I think once people realize in like Marvel Beginnings that you have pack pulled inserts showing the comic book cover signed by the creators of the comic book, pack pulled, people are going to be like, all right, that's crazy. You know what I mean? I can have this kind of work in a nice collection for myself. And I see collectors getting into displays. I see investors looking at things that can't be duplicated again, like signatures from Stan Lee or John Buscema or Joe Sinnott. And yes, those are surfer people. I'm so sorry. That's all I have in my brain. But I see things that can't be duplicated anymore taking off in Marvel cards and becoming really valuable. There's going to be a lot of PMGs. They're not going to stop being there and be like, well, Precious Metal Gems, what a great run. That's eventually going to come back and there's going to be more PMGs, but there are cards from the 90s, cards from the early 2000s that are not coming back due to various issues. And I think those are the things that people will start getting into and get a little more energy to. But yeah, cards can't outperform comic books because you can't expect a card to outperform the source material, period. I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's ever going to happen. But I do love the conversation of, mid-grade comic books being outperformed by PMGs or a particular insert that's out of 10, because that's possible. You know what I mean? Just because of the scarcity. But I do think it is the audience. And I'm really excited to see the audience grow with Marvel cards way more than it grew this last year. And I think we're going to see a huge expansion of people looking at Marvel cards because they're getting outpriced in a lot of other collectibles. And my hope is that while they're here, they're not getting outpriced here almost immediately. Because I think that growth at a steady pace is what's going to keep people really attached to these cards and feeling like, oh, I can participate in this hobby without all the frustrations that I'm used to in other parts of different collectibles. So I see that happening pretty interestingly.
Yeah, and if people are coming in from the sports card or comic book side, no offense, your guys' stuff looks cheap. I mean, PMGs don't, but like a lot of stuff looks very affordable when you're coming in from the sports card world or, the high grade, blue chip key comic book market. Other than PMGs, mostly the Marvel card stuff is very reasonably affordably priced, especially from a wax perspective. you know, like what were Black Diamond boxes, like $600-$800 a piece? What are Black Diamond boxes?
First
Not
release,
that
they were like 300.
And on
Okay.
ePack,
Now
they were
they're doubled.
400.
So that's a high end product, and I think you know, Spidey had a hammer on the other day. A high end product on the sports card side of things is $3,000 to $4,000 a box. You know, that's a high end product on the sports card world. Is anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 a box, and like a flawless basketball box is $3K plus. There's 12 cards in it. That's it. You know,
And what's the average value people are pulling out of that box?
terrible. I mean,
Yeah.
unless there's usually only a few players in a class that carry it. So unless you hit one of those, you know, you're getting killed. In general, in sports, ripping wax is it's for fun, not for making money. It's the gamble, it's the thrill, the chase.
Pretty much the same for Marvel.
Marvel, you have more like you could build a set out of it. You know what I mean? Like there's a little different aspect to it on the Marvel side of thing. Like I can rip a box of 90 Marvel Universe. I don't care what I hit out of it. I'm just hoping to put the set together and maybe pull some cool holograms. I mean, this is
Neo, I actually said
necessarily the
that for
perfect,
others benefit. I'm still going to rip boxes. People can, you know, team sealed wax
So-
to get mad at me, but team sealed, I mean, I'm going to rip anyways.
Neo, it's hilarious. I was talking to Spidey Jew, and we were talking about something he was going to get sealed, and I was like, "Don't open that." He goes, "I don't know, Sketch. I don't know." Like, keep it sealed, man. What's wrong with you?
Open it.
And he's like, "I gotta
Somebody's
crack
gonna
it, man. I
take
gotta
it."
crack it."
I don't want to derail this. I do have to go pretty quick here. How many people have Weiss Schwartz boxes on their way to them right now?
Yep.
Of course you do.
Yes, 2 days ago.
I
They're
have two, I have
beautiful,
two
man.
boxes. I'm hoping they're here Monday. I really want to put one up on the channel.
I
So,
want to see it so bad. They're
they look
gorgeous
pretty
cards.
good.
Someone posted an Iron Man hollow foil in one of the groups today, and it looks stunning.
So
I had a
good.
friend personally open the box on FaceTime for me. He's more of a quiet collector, and he was showing me the cards. He's like, "I gotta admit, man, these look better than many of the cards that have come out this year. I mean, not as much as Black Diamond, because Black Diamond was beautiful, but they
Mhm.
are like solidly good-looking cards. They really are.
I wonder how many
And
people
hard
actually
pulls
know
in there.
about them.
I know Swami talked about it, and I know there being the group here and there, and the boxes are relatively cheap on eBay. They'll be gone after we have this conversation, but they're
Well,
relatively
look,
cheap.
hey,
They're
then
like
we'll
$100.
plan on giving away one box then. I've got enough coming. We'll do that. We'll do
That's
something
exciting.
live.
That'd be awesome.
We'll give away a box.
That'd be
just so
fun.
more people.
Yeah, I
have
got two boxes, one to open and one to, in theory, sit on. But if I like the first one, the second one probably won't lie.
You'll definitely open it.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Neo. This is awesome, brother.
appreciate it.
Thanks for jumping on with us, man. We really appreciate you, homie.
Not a problem, gentlemen. Anytime you need me, just throw the bat signal up, and I'm usually around the hop on. So
Always big
absolutely.
NEO.
Looking forward to 2022, my friend.
Absolutely.
Yep, you guys
Cheers,
too.
Neo.
Have a happy new year, everybody. We'll catch you later.
All right.
Later, buddy.
Thanks, bye.
Oh, what a great guy.
Yeah.
What a nice
Marvel
guy.
got that's going to be the Marvel. How do they pronounce the last name? The other part of it starts with an S. It's a German name, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, I can't pronounce it. He said it, and I was like, never gonna remember that.
Yeah.
But I can help with a.
Can you pull up like a sales sheet or something of it?
Yeah. I'm gonna do it now.
Yeah, we'll show
Nice.
everybody. That was fun.
Oh,
Neo's
so give me a-
cool to call too.
He was great.
There it is. The
yeah.
Weiss Schwartz. Weiss
By
Schwartz.
Swords.
Yeah, it's a what TGC trading card game.
They look cool. They look cool.
Mhm.
There was
They
a
look
style of it,
really
I was like,
cool.
Weiss!
Weiss
That's how you say it.
Schwartz.
Weiss. Weiss.
Das ist nicht so gut, meine Freunde.
Oh, that's hot.
That's right.
I don't know. I like assertiveness.
Yeah.
I get all freaked out. I get all sweaty. Hold on.
Ah.
Quiet down, Gigi.
Das ist nicht so gut.
Yeah, so Tom brings up this point. I know Hasbro and WOTC. What does that mean? Are trying to get a use of a ton of different licenses in
Wizards of the Coast.
Wizards of the Coast for Marvel
Wizards of the
trading
Coast.
card games. So maybe Marvel eventually. It is a huge
Overpowered.
market.
Yeah.
So if you notice, you have Upper Deck has really been pushing their TCG game cards, like in their advertising, and they haven't been pushing Marvel, but whatever. Oh wow, look at that.
Yeah, they push Legendary, but they don't push Marvel stuff, which is always really weird.
That's already priced at
That's
$18.
Yeah, they're beautiful foil. Look at that stuff, man. It look good. If Surfer was in here, I'd be all over this. But this is mostly MCU characters, so people know.
Hmm.
At least it seems like it is.
And you're certain that Surfer's not in it.
I'm pretty confident. If you pull it, you're gonna see a grown man cry. So we
Tell
can
me
do
about that
that.
stamp.
Tell you that about what?
The stamp, like that gold stamp.
So my buddy, Marvel Still Collector, the guy I did the video with for Fleet Ultra Spider-Man, he told me a little bit about this, and I do have some of the written material.
$250?
There are some levels of rarity in here that are pretty
Yeah,
insane.
we may not be giving away the box.
Buddy's like,
might be
scrap
whole.
that.
I'm kidding. We'll still do it. We'll still do it.
But like there are cards with this gold stamp on them, and these are harder pulls to get. There is a variation of them as well.
Wow, that's a good looking Thor. Throwing the
They're all
hammer.
pretty. They look great. Peach Momoko did the Winter Soldier and something else in here.
Who did?
Peach from
Peach
anime.
Momoko?
Peach Momoko.
So these have been riding under the radar. When did these come out?
Can you pull up that Iron Man with the stamp?
They just
I'm
did.
calling it a stamp. I don't know what.
Literally,
what
yeah.
else to call it.
Really, like last week or something like that. They were released.
Yeah. So somebody hit me up. I think it was Pancake Analytics hit me up back
Might
in the
be.
summer, and he was like, "Hey, you might want to grab some of these." And they happened to be on a website called Ami, AMI, which I buy action figures from that are overseas. And they had the case there. I trust the website, the whole process. I know that what their shipping's like. And so I made the purchase. The only thing about that website is you don't pay when you purchase, you pay when it's available. And then they send you an email and say, hey, you have something that's awaiting payment. And it sat there for a week until I realized I saw people getting their boxes. I'm like, what? And I went and found the email, and sure enough, they were awaiting my payment. So hopefully I'll have it next week.
Here's an uncommon bulk, so you can see all the cards. A little cheap. You know, beautiful cards.
Yeah, I see a lot of Ghost Spider in there.
There's
Spider
a Venom, Ghost Spider, Carnage, Venom,
Oh, wow.
Groot.
Groot. Rawr. You got Venom. Ghost Spider looks
So
great.
we need to find out if CGC will grade these.
Yeah, they will. CGC. Yeah, I don't know.
mean, I'm pretty sure they don't now, but when they will, because they fit the
That'd be
space
cool.
that they're already playing in.
That'd be
Are
cool.
they again, I don't know a huge amount about this set, but are they a bit out there in terms of, Simon just said I'd rather collect traditional branded cards. Are they very much a niche thing?
So this, from what my understanding is, this company's been around for a while, and they primarily do anime. They're highly coveted and highly sought after. So these have a very nice world that they live in, that people buy these in. So these are pretty desirable pieces. They are Marvel, they are Marvel. I would consider them foreign cards because they're not US release. Like there's a difference. Like I was just doing this craziness earlier today because of Pankit, our buddy Captain America collector. He went ahead and put a spreadsheet of how many cards there are of Captain America and gave his number, the things that he had to collect. And I was kind of like, what a psycho. And then this morning, of course, I put my list together. So these are foreign cards, but they are part of collecting. You know what I mean? And I would say they're great in hand. They're beautifully done cards, and the foiling is spectacular.
Kent went ahead and got himself 2 boxes.
They're nice, man.
Well,
They're
the
nice.
art
10
is what I'm
factories.
looking at now more than anything. I've opened a little
Great.
bit of TCG stuff, and the art tends to be pretty nice. And it's
like it.
covering most of the card there. It's not all covered
Yeah.
up,
That is nice.
That's all foil. Look at that.
That does look cool.
So it's going to be
That
curious
looks awesome.
to see it in hand. Yeah.
I want that, for God's sakes. It looks good.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to be careful. I would buy this stuff. I'm just, A, I'm cheap, and B, no surfer. It's hard to kind of like put money off to the side for it.
Right.
But I think they look great. I'm very impressed. Beautiful cards.
Love it. That'll be fun when it comes in. So,
Oh yeah.
so I've got this I can open,
Nice.
Oh boy.
and then of course this one. This is going to take a second for me to grab. Boxes everywhere. This one.
Oh god.
Classic.
Look at that. Look at that middle card. Look how iconic.
Yeah.
Iconic that set is.
Yeah, I'm gonna
94
open this
Ultra.
one sometime this week. I don't know if it's bricked or not. We're gonna find out.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
Just some of my favorite art ever of X-Men.
It's beautiful.
It's the set I always think about with X-Men, other than the Jim Lee one. Like that's the one that always comes to mind. Is the Jim Lee one, and then the Fleer Ultra for me.
Well, in '92 I was 9, so it just wasn't as it didn't just hit me as hard as '94 did.
Yeah.
You know, because I was
Yeah.
very much, into X-Men and Spider-Man's in that set, but not predominant. And it just hung with me.
Yeah. No, I get it. I completely get it. Well, this has been awesome.
I was
Absolutely.
going to say, dudes, we've been at 1 hour, 20 minutes.
I know. I just noticed. I was
Love
like, oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Thanks to like almost 30 people watching all the way through.
Yeah, we've had a great
you, everybody.
round. We probably could have did better with the comments, but we had the chat going back and forth. So if we missed any of your comments, guys, I apologize. If you got any questions for us, you can put them in now. We'll be happy to answer them. But hope everybody enjoyed the show and the content today.
I hope so too.
Take us out, Gingy.
Love it. Yeah, thank you for watching. Have a fantastic rest of your evening. Happy New Year to you. We'll see you in the next episode. Peace.
Have a marvelous day.